Thank you so much, Speaker. It's an honor to stand tonight and speak to the debate on C-21, discussing firearms in this nation of ours, of Canada. And I have to say that I'm not standing here as a Conservative Member of Parliament to simply misrepresent or not represent properly anything or anybody, because who I'm representing here tonight are amazing people. And they're not just people from my riding, they're people from right across this country who see this legislation as something nefarious, quite honestly. And when I look at the whole process that this government, the NDP Liberal Coalition, has gone through in contortions of creating an order in council that banned certain firearms and then moved to handguns and then brought in amendments to add in a huge plethora of other firearms to that list. And then they reneged on that and took the list away. And now they just have a definition. And, you know, I have to say, whoever made that list up for them, I think they had fun doing it, because it was clear that they really didn't understand the breadth of firearms that were on that list and how ridiculous it was that so many of them were even there. So I have to say that when I'm speaking here tonight, I'm speaking on behalf of people across this country who truly understand firearms and know exactly what this legislation is. I get the impression here that they're talking about firearms owners, hunters, farmers, even our Indigenous people, as those who, you know, don't really know what's going on here. And they are the ones that are speaking out. And again, like so many issues in this House, we are standing on this side of the floor, and I firmly believe that we are the ones that are representing the majority of Canadians in this place who see legislation brought forward that says one thing, and the more deeper you go into it, or suddenly there's all these additional amendments, or it's a bill that's brought in with nothing and they have to add in everything after they've made their speeches about what it is. That it is very clear that I think what we have here is a government and partner just turning themselves into pretzels, trying to figure out how to carry on with what they truly want to do. And I can say very confidently that I hear over and over again that this emperor has no clothes, because Canadians are seeing through what their intentions are. And it's so clear because common sense does not exist in the majority of this legislation. Because what we're talking about here, supposedly, is about public safety and protecting Canadians. And yet, as this government is introducing this legislation and other pieces, crime in Canada has grown exponentially. There's no clear, rational reason to focus on hunters and farmers and Indigenous people who use firearms responsibly, safely, and legally as a means of dealing with the violence that we're facing growing in our nation. It's really clear that this legislation will not impact the important things in regards to violence in our country. Catch and release policies of this government have been brutal, where Canadians have become victims because it's been so poorly laid out. And now all of a sudden, oh, well, we're fixing that. My word, it never should have gotten to where it needs to be fixed to this extent 8 years into this government's mandate. Violent crime has increased 32%. Gang-related murders have doubled. People have been killed across this country in all kinds of scenarios, in larger numbers, with no relation to the person who is even attacking them in any way. And it seems that the only focus of this legislation is on the law-abiding people in Canada. So the question that comes to me all the time from not just people in my riding, quite honestly, rural ridings right across this country, and we know that on that side of the floor, there are Liberal members who barely have won their ridings in rural Canada. And you know, we pit East against West. No. Rural Canada is rural Canada. And our firearms, owned by respectable, honest Canadians, rurally, should not even be considered by this government in trying to deal with the issues that they have with growing violence in this country. It's their poor mandates, it's their poor legislation that is opening up crime more and more in our country. The new Liberal definition is exactly the same as the old one. It is simply under a new look, a new package, because that definition still describes many of these firearms that are used legally, that are used properly, are not part of the dynamics of the violence in our country. So we do not support confiscating the firearms of law-abiding farmers, hunters, and Indigenous people. And we are on the right side of the Canadian public on this issue. No one believes that going after hunters and legitimate hunting rifles will reduce violent crime across this country. This is part of the Liberals' plan to distract and divide Canadians, and we refuse to be divided on this issue. Right across the nation, the majority of Canadians agree this emperor has no clothes. There is some reason behind this mandate that they want to press onto Canadians to remove the freedoms that we have in this country to be law-abiding firearms owners. They're making life easier for violent criminals by repealing mandatory minimum sentences for gun crimes with Bill C-5. How in the world does that make sense next to removing firearms from law-abiding Canadians? And they've made it easier to get bail with Bill C-75. And they are failing to stop the flow of illegal guns across the U.S. border. I would suggest that they focus their energies on doing what will make the big difference in violence in this country. Because as we've heard, and it's true, in cases where a firearm is used illegally, violently, it is the person holding that firearm. And maybe we need to do more research on who it is that commits these crimes and why we let them out of jail over and over and over again, to where, as we heard earlier today, the majority of crimes in our large cities, New York City was actually mentioned as well, are repeat offenders who get out and do it again, get out and do it again, get out and do it again. And the focus here is on law-abiding firearms owners, hunters, farmers, Indigenous people. We support common sense firearms policies that keep guns out of the hands of dangerous criminals. I think I'm going to switch, Madam Speaker, to some comments where there's unity in this country on firearms. And I'm going to quote Vice Chief Heather Bear, Federation of Sovereign Indigenous Nations, and this is what she says. When you go out to hunt, you're not just hunting. You're teaching your child courage, and you're bonding. You're passing on protocols, ceremonial protocols, of how to look after what you kill. There are the rites of passage, the reverence to the animal and the tobacco. Along with that tool comes many teachings and also matters of safety. When you take a gun away, you take away the opportunity for that oral tradition to happen. I have 1 minute left. Wow. Well, I'm just going to quote something I said at the Parkland Outdoor Show and Expo in Yorkton, the largest outdoor show in Canada, where the focus is on outdoor activities. And I said, the Parkland Outdoor Show and Expo champions our great outdoors heritage by celebrating nature, environment, hunting, angling, trapping, hiking, camping, and more. What impacted me the most as I reflected on my experiences year after year with this event is the visible passion and joy I see for those who spend quality time with family and friends while they are teaching skills, respect, and how to deeply enjoy the great outdoors to the next generation. On behalf of the Federal Government of Canada, I said, and as a Member of Parliament for Yorkton Melville, serving His Majesty's official opposition with an amazing group of people under the servant leadership of the Leader of His Majesty's Loyal Opposition, I thank them for enjoying, promoting, and valuing Canada's natural beauty, our heritage, and outdoor tradition.